Hey, I know it wasn't exactly pretty, but it's a victory for the Miami Dolphins, 20-13 over the Raiders. And around here, we celebrate those victories, the Victory Monday. So go ahead and type those W's in the chat. But boy, do we have a lot to get to on Dolphins Today. Let's do it. Coming up on today's show, we start with probably the biggest news nugget of today's show, and that is the latest on Devon Achane. He left the game yesterday against the Raiders. We'll tell you all about what's going on with Devon Achane and his short-lived return from IR and what the latest is. And you know it's a Monday. It's a Victory Monday, 20-13 over the Raiders, but as always, we've got some overreaction. Some of them might be, depending on who you ask, some of them might be realistic reactions, but we'll talk about it and then wrap it up with some news and notes. So come along for Dolphins Today. We start with the Devon Achane injury update. If you watch the game, you know he went out in that opening quarter against the Raiders and did not return. Lots of tweets around the Devon Achane injury and a lot of updates to get to, so just bear with me as we work through these. Some quotes from Mike McDaniel. He got landed on, and it was a little painful, but I think this part's very interesting. He was politicking, trying to come back into the game, McDaniel said after the game. He also went on to say that we've got some, quote, positive feedback from the training staff, but McDaniel wanted to be cautious given Achane's rust, referring to the fact that this was his first game back since being placed on IR after that injury against the Giants earlier in the season, and it was the same knee. Now this from Joe Shad regarding Devon Achane. Mike McDaniel tells reporters this morning, so this is from this morning, that he is feeling better. Achane is not going to require surgery, so more good news there, and that could have been some of the positive feedback that McDaniel was referring to, and there's extra feedback and opinions coming later on. There's a chance he may or may not play Friday, and right now the team calling him day to day. And one more for you from Ari regarding Dolphins running back Devon Achane. Re-aggravated same knee injury during Sunday's game that sidelined him for 4 games. And again, it's important to note it won't require surgery, but the team continues to gather information on how they will proceed. So let's go straight to the horse's mouth. Mike McDaniel, what he had to say on the injury postgame. I think it might have been the second series. He kind of got landed on, and it was a little painful. And we weren't, even though he was politicking to try to come back in the game, I was a little worried off the rust to go and do that. We kind of held him back, and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. More from Mike McDaniel, as he went on to say someone landed on that same knee, so that's kind of, we just didn't want to mess with him. We had some positive feedback from the training staff at the end of the second quarter and at halftime, but I didn't feel like at that point that would have been fair to him, of course, referring to putting him back into the game. So lots of information here. Let's try to gather it all together and funnel it into what the bottom line is, right? Achane's day-to-day, moving forward, questionable for Friday's game against the Jets, but I think there's a lot to be optimistic about in the fact that it won't require surgery, which is really positive news. So again, as the Dolphins continue to gather more information, we'll keep you updated as soon as we get more information. More injury news. If you're like me and you had that scare when Tyreek Hill left the game, went back to the locker room, and then had his hand taped up, and obviously he came back and was completely fine. But I love this quote from Tyreek Hill talking about that hand injury. He said, quote, "I got my ass popped. My hand was in the middle of catching the ball when dude helmet hit my hand. It's nothing serious." So there you go. And I think that, again, speaks to the mentality that Tyreek Hill has. And another huge game for him against the Raiders, over the century mark for the 6th time this season. Incredible. And take a look at these numbers from 10 games. He is on pace for 2,000 yards. How about that? He said at the beginning of the season that is his goal, but 1,222 yards through the 10 games. He also leads the NFL with those 9 touchdowns. So it's time to show the Cheetah some love. Show Tyreek Hill some love in the comments right now. Type Cheetah. Now, that we've gotten through the injury news, let's get into the overreactions on this Victory Monday, starting with how well the defense has played. That's another really solid performance from this Dolphins defense led by Vic Fangio. And I'm for one ready to say that they have arrived now that everybody is healthy and everybody is flying around out there on defense. And you got a weapon like Jalen Ramsey. I'm so confident in this defense. He had the 2 interceptions yesterday, one of them to seal the game. He is a game wrecker at that cornerback position. Just the 3 games since he's been back, already 3 interceptions. And I love this from Barry Jackson, that really, because sometimes it can be hard to quantify exactly what a cornerback's impact is just by stats. But opponents now have thrown 13 times versus Ramsey. He has allowed 5 catches, but 3 interceptions in just 13 targets towards him. That is insane. Dolphins now 7-3. And you got to show some love to the Dolphins social media crew who put this one out there after the game. Look at Jalen Ramsey call game and go snatch that W for the Fins. Awesome work by the Dolphins social media team, and you gotta love it. My takeaway from this, when fully healthy, I think this defense is special. They're gelling. The chemistry is there with first-year defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, and I feel really good about that side of the ball. Now, we all know where this is going next because the offense didn't exactly perform too well yesterday. So we've got some more overreactions that we're going to get into. Might be panic time for this offense. But first, I want to give a shout out and a sincere thank you to today's presenting sponsor. That is Prize Picks. I've been telling you about Prize Picks for weeks. So real simple, Spark Note version here. Here's how you play. You pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and then the fun begins. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. In fact, Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform. So they've got a huge portfolio of picks to get into. And I do it every Sunday. We had some fun with this yesterday with the Dolphins and Raiders games. We were so close. Had we picked a flex play instead of a power play, we would have won. Now, a flex play means you need to only get 2 out of 3 correct or 3 out of 4. Power play, you got to pick all 4 or all 3 correctly. And check out what I'm rolling with. Great Monday Night Football game that we've got. Rematch of last year's Super Bowl. We've got the Chiefs and the Eagles. Everybody in the National Football League will have all eyes on this game. So here are my prize picks. I'm going more for Patrick Mahomes' projected passing yards of 285.5. And A.J. Brown has been on a tear. We know a thing or two about watching wide receivers on a tear with Tyreek Hill. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say less this week because I haven't checked exactly how many games in a row it's been, but it's been 150-plus yards receiving, it seems like, every game for A.J. Brown. I think that's eventually got to cool off, so I'll say it's tonight against a tough Chiefs defense. And let's get a little wild with that last pick as well. Jalen Hurts, I'm going for more on the rushing yards of 38.5. Get some zone read going for that Eagles offense. But that's how it works. PrizePicks.com/CLNS is where you got to go because we've got a $100 deposit match for you, and we'll put that link in the description as well. It's PrizePicks.com/CLNS. A few more overreactions to get to on this Overreaction Monday, starting with the offense. They got to figure it out. I am very, very concerned because the production from weeks 1 through 6 through weeks 7, 11, the comparison is a little bit alarming in every single category that you see there. Probably most importantly, the points per game. Down. Obviously, I know what you're going to say. There was a 70-burger in there against the Broncos in week 3, and that is a statistical outlier, so it is going to skew the numbers a little bit, but there's still enough of a sample size and enough data in weeks 7 through 11 to be concerned of, especially those turnovers per game. Nearly 2 turnovers per game. It was about 1.85, so we rounded up there, but you get the idea. And most importantly, that record 5-1 in the first 6 weeks and 2-2 in their last 4. But again, they won yesterday, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. But I think this quote from Tua Tagovailoa about the offense is very interesting and very simple. Quote, "We can be a better team. We can be a better offense for the team when I stop turning the ball over. It's that simple. That was a huge part of the offense stubbing their toe yesterday against the Raiders were the 3 turnovers. And as Tua mentioned, that does not bode well for the offense. So be honest with me. Let me know in the comments, where are you at with this Dolphins offense? What's the confidence level? Scale it for me, 1 through 10. As I always like to go straight to the horse's mouth, and that's what Mike McDaniel had to say after the game yesterday about the offense. I think we had only 1 or maybe 2 3-and-outs, but there would be something, whether it was a holding call or something, we shoot ourselves in the foot. Those are things that you expect in an NFL game, and you don't expect to score 30 every time. He went on to say, I think our crew will feel as though they had the ability for this game, but hats off to the Raiders team in general. That's a 5-win team that played as hard as anybody here at Hard Rock, and they get paid too. So we'll learn from the stuff that we can and get better from it, but ultimately it's a team game. And I think some context is important here with this quote coming right after the game in the immediate media availability. So, he's probably thinking, hey, we got the win. It's hard to win in the National Football League. But as we take a step back and look more and more at to what this offense has been compared to its regression in recent weeks, I think it's okay to be a little bit concerned. I need to see more from this offense and more of what we saw early in the season. And the Black Friday game against the Jets, a very good Jets defense, is a great opportunity to do so. And it's not as simple as saying, hey, early in the season we were doing this, so let's do it. We'll score more points. Obviously, there's more that goes into it. There's more tape out on the Dolphins, so defensive coordinators and defensive schemes have more time and more data to be able to adapt to what the Dolphins are doing. And Devon Achane's been injured. Of course, there's a lot of factors. But if you take what this offense is capable of doing, what they showed they're capable of doing, combined with what this defense is doing as of late, I think the Dolphins could be a very special team. Now, from offense to defense to special teams. It's a third of the game, am I right? Special teams. And the Dolphins' special teams were not that special yesterday against the Las Vegas Raiders. Jason Sanders missed a 50-yard field goal. And I know 50-yard field goal, he was still 2 of 3. Relax, Reetma. Go easy on Jason Sanders. But my overreaction from Sunday's game is this kicking game is a liability. It's the National Football League, for goodness sakes. I want a better kicker in Miami than Jason Sanders. And it's not just yesterday. Look at the historical data that one of the Dolphins beat writers, Marcel Louis Jacques, pointed out. So after Sanders missed that 50-yard field goal, here were the numbers. Now, in fairness, I'll say it, he did go on to make his next 2 kicks. So there you go. He was 2 for 3. But since 2021, he has connected on just 4 of 14 kicks from 50-plus yards. Let me say that again. 4 of 14 field goals from 50-plus yards. That percentage ranks 45th in the NFL out of 47 kickers who have attempted one such kick. So when you think about Jason Sanders, it's nothing personal. He's been in Miami a while. In fact, a 6-year veteran, all 6 of them spent in Miami. The career numbers aren't bad. 82.3%, 9 of 12 so far this season. Again, it's not alarming, but the bottom of the screen is alarming for me. The 50-plus yarders, 17 of 30 in his career. He has made a 56-yarder one time. That's his career long. But again, this is the National Football League. I'm not asking for Jason Tucker to be automatic from 60-plus yards, but I am asking for more consistency and more range out of the field goal kicking position, because it's a position where there's a lot of free agents. And it's not like they got to learn the playbook or anything like that. You call up Robbie Gould, you call up a free agent kicker, and you say, come kick the ball for the Dolphins because Jason Sanders can't make 50-plus yarders. So, might sound a little bit harsh, but I watched that game yesterday thinking, at some point, not having an automatic kicker is going to cost this Dolphins team, because it's the NFL. The margin of error is so slim, and if you get an opportunity to win a game by a field goal, you got to have confidence in your guy. So I've said my piece, but what say you? Do you want the Dolphins to sign a new kicker? Real simple, type Y for yes or N for no. And again, these are overreactions because it's Monday. That's what we do on Monday. So after some of the not so positive news, let's get into something I was fired up and ecstatic watching yesterday, and that was Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips turning into a force as edge rushers on both sides. We'll start with Jalen Phillips because I think he had his best game in recent time, for sure his best game of the season. And you look at the stats in the 7 games, he missed a couple early on in the season with that bad back, and the sacks are coming. 5.5 sacks on the season in 7 games. He had the interception yesterday along with those 2 sacks, and he's making plays in the backfield. His counterpart, Bradley Chubb, also becoming a force and has played so well in recent games, and that can be such a weapon defensively to have pressure from your edge rushers on both sides of the football. The 4 forced fumbles from Bradley Chubb really jumps out to me as well because those are game-altering plays. And check this out from Fins Central. Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips have combined for 10 sacks in the last 5 games. Pretty good. 2 sacks a game. Simple math there. They are on their way to be the first Dolphins duo since 2003 to have 10 or more sacks in the same season, which would be awesome because, again, that's such a weapon for Vic Fangio in this defense to have 2 guys that you can count on to generate pressure. Because what do we always say? If you can generate pressure with your 4 down linemen, that gives you 7 guys to sit back in the back 7 and make plays, just like we saw yesterday with Jalen Ramsey having 2 interceptions, and the other interception by Jalen Phillips was caused by Christian Wilkins, an interior guy. So if that down interior defensive line combined with the 2 edge rushers in Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb can continue to get pressure on quarterbacks, that will bode really well for this defense, who I believe is really starting to come around. Let's say you let me know in the comments, you believe in Vic Fangio's defense. Type B for believe or D if you don't believe it. Because, like I said, the data is there. We'll go back to the game before yesterday against the Chiefs in Germany. Second half shutout against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Let's go to yesterday's game against the Raiders. Obviously not as potent of an offense, but same thing. Second half shutout against the Raiders. This Dolphins defense is playing its best football when it matters most. So overall, lots to take away from, lots to digest because, again, it was an overreaction Monday. You had the Devon Achane injury news. We'll keep you updated as things continue to develop with that story. So keep it here on Dolphins Today. That's why you subscribe, because when breaking news happens, we've got you covered. Dolphins Today. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we've got a Dolphins video for you every single day. We've got live shows and, of course, our live watch parties. So that's going to do it for me. Shout out producer Tex on the 1s and 2s today. Always keeping things moving on the 1s and 2s. Couldn't do it without him, but we appreciate you tuning in to today's video. We'll be back with more Dolphins content on Dolphins Today.